Aufzählung Link einreichen. Aufzählung Link, Liste Ende, Link dieser Seite, Liste Ende, leer. Überschrift Ebene 1, Movement Punkt 2000, Linkliste, Dialogfeld, Linksliste nach E eingeschaltet, Eingabe, Ansichten, leer, persönliche Werkzeuge, Seite als 6 Überschriften, Link, Kabel,
here you see that those Eigenschaften on the folder. On a document it says edit, and it should say edit on both of them. But in this case it actually says properties on the folder, not edit, and then she's confused because it's not sent. Totally the translation.
Linkliste, Dialogfeld, bearbeitet, Eingabe, Ansichten, Aufzählung, besuchter Link, Einzelheiten zum Aufzählung, Link, privat schalten. Aufzählung, Link, Aufzählung, Aufzählung, Schalten, besuchter Link, Liste Net leer, Überschrift Ebene 1, Net bearbeitet leer, tragen Sie hier alle Einzelheiten zum Net ein, Einzelheiten zum Net, sollte keine Leerkursnadel, Eingabefeld, Eingabe, Formularmodus ein, Einzelheiten zum A, NE, O, T, Tab, Einzelheiten zum U, NS, GR, Leertaste, A, NE, O, T, Tab, Einzelheiten zum Monumentbeschreibung, Eingabefeld, geben Sie Text ein. GAS, Leertaste, A, NE, O, T, Leertaste, DES, Leertaste, Ö, PS, V. Tab, Einzelheiten zum Monument, Haupttext, Eingabefeld, geben Sie Text ein.
And you know she's going to fetch a document from her hard disk and to the main body text.
Eingabe, eigene Datei, Vollständig, Note. Eingabe, Vollständig, T, Text.html. Eingabe, Formularmodus aus.
This is an example for a page that was made specifically for blind people, with very well structured, very little gadgets, because you have to imagine that Charles is like reading the entire screen in the worst case. And if you got a large menu thing going around, like with 120 links, then in the worst case, those links are read by Charles every time on every page you go to.
Kopieren, Eingabe, ÖPSV-richtige Hinweise zur Seitigungsstellung, Microsoft Internet X, Altar, Note, Altar, JOS, Altar, Portal, Dokument, 2004, 02, 13, Eingabefeld,
You know the short name was very nice when you read document. So,
das Angebot des ÖPSV-Eingabefeld. Haupttext. Eingabefeld. Eingabe. Formularmodus ein. Text aus Zwischenauflage eingefügt. Tab. Einzelheiten zum Dokument. Strukturierter Text. Auswahl. Zum Netzverkehr. Auswahl. Einzelheiten zum Dokument. HTML. Auswahlschalter. Tab. Inhalt. Hochladegründe. Klammer auf. Tab. Tab, Einzelheiten zum Dokument, Speicherschalter, Eingabe, Formularmodus aus, Ansichten, Info, Kabel, Seite als 6 Überschrift, 15 Links, Kabel, Info, Veränderungen auf Dokument gespeichert,
Okay, so I think you got a very nice impression how it is to work with a site or to read a site when you can't look at the screen, so to speak. Yeah, as I said, Plone is pretty far already. Everything is named, or at least nearly everything is named, and something is translated. Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to say, namely access keys. And you would think that like Plone has these access keys, so you can use Command S to get into the search form or something, and you would think like without user testing, you would think like, yeah, that's exactly what they're looking for, and this is what they want, because they can't use the mouse, so they are going to use the access keys. But what happens is this, their tools, like JAWS, is having its own access keys, and it's overriding these access keys. And then they're on the Plone side, and Plone is capturing the access keys, and they cannot use JAWS anymore. So,
in addition, it's complicated by the fact that JAWS exists in a lot of languages. I mean, every language has its own set of access keys, right? Because search is not necessarily the same access key in German like it is in English. So for each language, you have to kind of consult what the access keys that every screen reader uses and map the Plone access keys to the access keys that are not occupied already. So it's really...
It's a really difficult problem. And also because JAWS is not like the only software you're using, so you're using a pool of software, and every one of those things has its own access keys. And so in this case, I think this is a very good to see that you can't really get far without actual user testing in the field. Because access keys are kind of, when you read about them, you think, yeah, okay, that's exactly it. Yeah, but then when you check it out in real life, all they want is to turn them off. Yeah? So that's what something she was asking for. Yeah, can we just get rid of them, please? Yeah, they're in my way. And yeah, initially we had thought it would help. So yeah, all right.
It should also be said that as a browser, JAWS has been receiving a lot of criticism from the standards community because they're not following the W3C recommendations for accessibility themselves. So it's kind of you would think that when you go that far that you read accessibility guidelines and kind of try to make Plone accessible, the screen readers would respect the guidelines, but they don't, and they refuse to change. So it's a pretty messy situation. It's very similar to the situation with IE itself, right? There's a lot of bugs and CSS problems with IE, and they won't change. So you have the same situation here all over again. A lot of user testing is needed. You need to individually test each version of screen reader. You need to map and figure out what kind of access keys each screen reader uses, so you can stay away from those. Ideally, there should be two sets of access keys, where one of them was tied to the application and one of them was tied to the web page. But because nobody was using access keys in the beginning, the creators of JAWS and those kind of people kind of assigned or hijacked the access keys, and then you can override those in the web page again. So we actually do ourselves a disservice because we hide the existing access keys of JAWS. So when they use Plone, it's harder for them because their usual access keys are actually gone because they'll use them in different things. So it's a pretty complex situation that can really only be solved by enough user testing and enough coordination between the different countries and different screen readers and different. So this is a very typical thing that we would like to get EU funding for, right? It would be great to fix this. It's going to take a lot of user testing, a lot of just getting all the software, getting all the different languages, and performing enough testing to actually work. It's almost as messy as CSS in IE, so it's a pretty significant task to get it corrected, but I think we should try to implement. And I mean, we're already very far distributed compared to any other content management system. They have nothing remotely as good as one. So just the fact that she's able to work here, right now she stumbled upon a translation version, the German translation versus the English one. But apart from that, she's able to actually work with Plone and add stuff to pages and create web pages and structures. Yeah.
I have a question to Ms. Abish, and I formulated first in German because German and English. Okay. Wir haben gesehen, als Sie da navigiert haben, wenn Sie ein Dokument anlegen, dass Sie wahrscheinlich nie die Meldung sehen, dass das Dokument jetzt angelegt wurde.
Bei der Version, die ich zu Hause gehabt habe, hat das toll funktioniert. Das hat mich sehr erstaunt, also, dass ich wirklich immer das Info erhalten habe, das Dokument wurde angelegt oder erzeugt. Das ist schriftlich gestanden, nur jetzt da bei der Oberfläche habe ich es nur jetzt beim nächsten Mal gefunden. Also wo ich das letzte Dokument in den Haupttext kopiert habe, bin ich wirklich bei der Meldung gestanden, Info, das Dokument wurde erzeugt oder sowas ist gestanden. Und das wäre eben ein ganz wichtiger Punkt, weil man, also vielleicht, ich weiß nicht, ob es zu viel
Sie erwarten, dass...
Nein, ich erwarte es nicht, aber...
Ja, aber es wäre gut,
Ja.
die erste Rückmeldung wäre, was wirklich passiert ist, okay.
Ja, klar, das wäre wichtig, weil dann sonst weiß ich nicht, ist es jetzt erledigt oder was ist jetzt los, ladet er noch oder was macht er?
Okay, the question was about the portal status message. Like when she clicks on save and you get this message info, this document has been saved. And these things are also very, very important for blind people, that this is prominent and like at the beginning of the page so that like Charles is really reading it, because they have no feedback and they don't see a spinning cursor and see when has IE finished loading the page. So you have to have these kind of messages where you click save and then it goes like, okay, fine, this has been saved.
So what I would propose as a kind of a short-term fix here, until we can secure some funding to actually do proper use of this, is we can create a main template that is much simpler and rearranged with the most important elements at the top and kind of putting all the secondary information at the bottom. So it won't be. The good thing about Plone is that she can log in with one skin, right? So she can be using the skin that is optimized for blind usage, and then when she publishes it, it goes onto a site where normal people see the normal layout, and the blind people can switch to the blind skin. So then they can actually produce content and do content management with an optimal experience. And the way Plone is structured now is so compartmentalized, so it's really easy to just do that very quick fix to main template. Just move stuff about, put problem message as the top one, put the content area as the first one that appears, right? Put the navigational structures that are the tree and those kind of things longer to the bottom, so when they need it, they can go and get it. But in general, they navigate via other things, and I would think something like a breadcrumb is much more useful for them than a navigation thing.
Yeah, and one of the things like go up one lever is really important. Navigational elements.
Yeah. Should they be able to do? The danger is always kind of forking stuff, like you get two kind of separate things you have to maintain. But the way it's structured now, we only have to maintain a separate main template and everything else can stay. It won't look optimal to the people that can see how it looks like, but it will be much better for us. So, but ideally, of course, there should be more time and more effort invested into getting used to that, because that's really the only thing about it in this case, especially with blind people. And that's also why it's kind of a chicken and egg problem. And I've been kind of pushing it from the other edge, and I've been saying we're compliant, we're following all the standards, while still knowing that, you know, I've tested this on a couple of blind people, and it's not optimal yet, but we need to get the attention that we're trying, and then the ball starts rolling. So it's kind of tooting your horn and saying, hey, we're accessibility compliant, whereas there's still a lot of work to be done. So even though you're, according to the spec, accessibility compliant, you're not done with the job.
Would there be a solution that the browser interface would switch to a sort of, let's say, fake text browser interface just at the moment when somebody enters the page, and the browser would be sending like the language information, or the page would ask if you are okay, if you can read the page, please press enter, and then it would switch into a line by line.
Okay, so we put it this way, it has that, and Joe's actually sabotaged that functionality.
Oh.
So we have a kind of a hidden link that should only be readable to screen readers, and Joe's doesn't show it. So there's a lot of work gone into here that works in some kind of screen readers and some kind of blind or browsers made for the blind. And JAWS is definitely by far the most ignorant browser. What JAWS does is kind of maps the visual layout to something they can understand, which is very useful for most pages. But when you get to the point where you actually optimize the site for blind people, like we've done, JAWS is not respecting that, because it only feeds back what IE feeds back, and IE doesn't feed back whatever structure you built in there to support the blind people. So it's a really bad situation with JAWS in particular. And the bad part of it is, of course, that JAWS is the most commonly used. So it's a bit like the IE battle or whatever you want to call it. Everybody's using it, even though it's the inferior product. But I'm not slacking JAWS. I mean, they've done an amazing job. For normal pages, their approach works much better than the drop down to text mode, read the page in the order it comes. So it's kind of what do you want to focus on. So I would think that most people that are blind have one or two different sets of tools. At least the ones I've been talking to, I've only seen her using JAWS, but the other people I've been testing this on blind people, they have other browsers too. So they can switch according to what kind of content they're trying to see. So what's really, again, the internationalization is an issue here, right? JAWS might be the only thing that's available in German because it's the biggest product, right? So there's always that factor too, that once you go outside the English-speaking world, you have a much lesser choice of software. Especially for blind people that are very often reliant on, I mean, I don't know how hard it is for them to read another language. It's probably additional overhead, right? So, but in any case, you like to have the software in your own language. So, to put it that way, this page actually has a lot of supporting structure for blind people that JAWS doesn't reflect. So we have at the top of every page, there is a link saying skip to content that goes directly to the content area, which would show you the status message, which would show you what you're answering. Now you have to cycle down into all the elements to find your content, which is really bad. You want to translate that?